Last chapter, we met two dads. One was highly educated, brilliant. He worked his whole life and died with almost nothing. The other never finished school, but he died as one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. And we asked the question, why? Today, we go deeper, because the answer is not just about money. It is about something that is hidden from almost everyone. Something your school never taught you. Something your parents probably never knew. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. This is chapter 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Let us get into it. Robert Kiyosaki is 9 years old. He has asked Rich Dad to teach him about money. Rich Dad says yes. But the lesson is not what Robert expects. Rich Dad does not sit him down with a textbook. He does not draw charts on a whiteboard. He offers Robert a job. 10 cents an hour, working in one of his shops on weekends. Robert thinks, okay, this is how it starts. I work, I earn, I learn. But weeks pass, and Robert starts to feel something. Something that millions of people feel every single day. He feels trapped. He is working. He is earning. But he does not feel free. He feels like he is just doing what he is told. He goes back to Rich Dad, angry. He says, this is not fair. You are barely paying me anything. I thought you were going to teach me. Rich Dad smiles. He say, I am teaching you, right now. Here is what Rich Dad was teaching. He was teaching Robert to feel the emotion that controls most people their entire lives. Fear. The fear of not having enough money. Most people spend their whole lives running from this fear. They wake up, they go to work, they get paid, they feel relief for a moment, then the bills come, and the fear comes back, so they go back to work, and the cycle repeats. Rich Dad calls this the rat race. You run hard, you run fast, but you never get anywhere because you are running in a circle. Now, I want you to think about this. How many people do you know, maybe even in your own family, who work extremely hard, who wake up early, who hustle, who sacrifice, and yet they never seem to get ahead? Not because they are lazy, not because they are not smart, but because they are running in the same circle, working to pay bills, getting a small raise, spending more, working harder, running and running and running. This is what Rich Dad wanted Robert to understand at 9 years old. The emotion is the trap. Kiyosaki explains this very clearly. Most people make financial decisions based on two emotions, fear and desire. Fear says, I need to keep this job, even if I hate it, even if it is killing me slowly, because I cannot afford to lose this salary. Desire says I work hard, I deserve this, let me buy it, let me upgrade, let me enjoy it now. And so people earn more and spend more. They get a promotion and they get a bigger car. They move to a better job and they move to a bigger apartment. The lifestyle grows as fast as the income grows. Nothing is left over. And the fear stays. Now, I want you to sit with this for a moment, because this is not just an American story. This is a Tanzanian story, a Nigerian story, a Ghanaian story, a Kenyan story. This is the story of your uncle who has worked for 30 years and is still struggling. This is the story of the professional, the lawyer, the doctor, the engineer who earns well but somehow never has savings. Fear keeps people in jobs they do not like. Desire keeps them spending money they do not have. And the school system? The school system trained them for exactly this. Let us talk about school. Robert Kiyosaki is not against education. He is not saying degrees are useless. He is saying something specific. School teaches you how to get a job. It does not teach you how to build wealth. Think about what you spent years learning. history, science, literature, languages, useful things, important things. But nobody sat you down and taught you what an asset is. Nobody explained the difference between income that stops when you stop working and income that keeps coming whether you work or not. Nobody taught you that a house you live in is not always an asset. Nobody taught you how money can work for you. You were taught how to work for money, and then you were sent into the world, and you were expected to figure out the rest. Most people never do. This is where Rich Dad introduces something powerful. He says there is a language that wealthy people use, and if you do not know this language, you cannot play the game. The two most important words in that language: assets and liabilities. Rich Dad defines them in a very simple way. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That is it. An asset gives you money. A liability costs you money. Now here is where it gets real. Most people think their biggest purchase is an asset. Their car, their house, their furniture. But Rich Dad says, look at the cash flow. Does it put money in your pocket every month, or does it take money out? A car you drive to work costs you fuel, insurance, repairs. It depreciates. It takes money out. A house you live in costs you a mortgage, rates, maintenance. It takes money out. That is a liability. An asset looks different. A rental property that pays you more than it costs you every month. A business that runs and earns even when you are asleep. A stock or investment that pays dividends. These put money into your pocket. Rich Dad says this is the entire secret. Wealthy people spend their lives collecting assets. Poor and middle-class people spend their lives collecting liabilities and calling them assets. Let me paint you a picture. Two people, same salary, same starting point. Person A gets paid. They feel good. They buy a new phone on credit. They upgrade their apartment. They get a car on hire purchase. Their expenses match their income perfectly. At the end of the month, nothing left. Person B gets paid. They feel the same desire, but they pause. They put a portion aside first before anything else. They look for a small asset. Maybe they buy a piece of land. Maybe they start a small side business. Maybe they buy shares in a company they believe in. Month by month, those assets start to produce small returns. Those returns get reinvested. The assets grow. 5 years later, Person A is still running the same race, faster now, but the same circle. Person B has income coming in that has nothing to do with their job. The gap between them is not talent. It is not luck. It is financial literacy, the knowledge that school never gave them. Here's the deepest point of this chapter. The school system was not designed to create wealthy people. It was designed to create good employees, people who show up on time, who follow instructions, who are grateful for a salary. That is not an accident. That is a design, an understanding that design is the beginning of freedom. Kiyosaki is not saying quit your job tomorrow. He is not saying ignore your studies. He is saying learn what school did not teach you. Learn the language of money. Learn what assets and liabilities actually mean. Start thinking differently. Because once you start building assets, even small ones, the equation begins to change. Your money starts working. Even when you sleep, even when you rest, even when you are back home in Dar es Salaam sitting with your family on a Sunday evening, the assets do not rest. So let us lock in what you learned today. School teaches you to get a job. It does not teach you to build wealth. Most people are trapped between two emotions, fear and desire. Fear keeps them in jobs. Desire keeps them spending. The rich collect assets. Assets put money in your pocket. The poor and middle class collect liabilities and believe they are doing well. Financial literacy is the missing lesson, and it starts with understanding two words: assets Liabilities. Now. Chapter 3 is where it gets even more powerful, because Rich Dad is going to show Robert and us exactly what the wealthy do that the poor and middle class never do. He calls it minding your own business. And no, it is not what you think. It will change how you see everything. Chapter 3 is coming next. Stay with us. Build quietly. Arrive undeniably.